Hey everybody, welcome back to another video, and today's topic I'm going to be talking about a hero of mine. I didn't have the easiest childhood growing up. Went through a lot of different things that, I hate to think back on and remember, but unfortunately they're a part of me. My parents got divorced at a very young age, and I kind of bounced around between them and between my grandparents. There was a lot of turmoil during that time. I didn't have the hardest life, but it certainly wasn't easy growing up. Went through a lot of emotional things, just like I said, a lot of bouncing around. So during those difficult times, I was looking for a distraction. I was looking for something to take my mind off of it, something to kind of make a scared little boy feel a little safer. And, I found that in the form of a hero, and I'm going to talk about them today. If you have been enjoying my videos, please subscribe to my channel. I try to do them fairly regularly so I can, keep everybody entertained, so to speak. I try to change the topic from time to time and talk about a whole various, different things. Hit the little bell up there, and this way you'll be notified whenever I post something new. If you do enjoy the video, like it, definitely leave something down in the comments if you like it. If you didn't like it, if you want to talk about the topic that we're going to go over today. I always love the feedback and the interaction. The gentleman I'm going to talk about, he was born in the 1920s, in New York. He served in the Army in World War II, and he's one of only 9 people to ever have the job classification of playwright. He did a lot of training videos and informational videos, during the war, things like that. He probably had a lot to do with those little serials that you would see at the movie theaters at that time. Came back and went on to do great things and be a hero to millions of people in the world. His name was Stanley Lieber. So you may be saying, well, who the heck is Stanley Lieber? That doesn't sound familiar. You might know him better as Stan Lee. So, let me tell you about my my interaction with Stan Lee. Like I said, growing up, I did not have the easiest childhood. Being young, going through the divorce, getting bounced around, changing schools, changing towns. Just a lot of things were going on. I don't have any brothers and sisters. I have my cousins that I was very close to. A couple of friends I was really close to, but one of my best friends growing up, he moved back to Portugal with his family. One was in another town, and I kind of fell out of touch with him. Another I had fallen out of touch with. I kind of left my hometown at a young age, kind of when just about that time when people start forming their little, I don't want to say cliques, but and when I came back a couple of years later, I was just kind of like the forgotten, thing. So whatever, it is what it is. But I'm just trying to give you some information, some background as to what I was feeling and what I was going through at the time. So, my grandmother was a big reader, and she was the one who kind of introduced me to comic books and things like that when I was a kid. And you would read these stories, and there were just these fantastic stories and these characters, larger than life. I believe Batman was the first comic I ever read, if I'm not mistaken. And I had a lot of DC comics when I was really young. Batman, Superman, Wonder Woman, The Flash, Green Arrow, Green Lantern, all these iconic, timeless heroes. But other than Batman, they were just larger than life. They were, I don't want to say cliches, but they were just these perfect, again, other than Batman, these idyllic heroes. Well, then she would get me some Marvel comics. Now, Marvel, I've always preferred Marvel comics to DC. I'm not going to start a rumble here because I know people are very particular about what brand they like. I mean, they're both great in their own way. But the thing about Marvel and the thing about Stan Lee in particular, he created, not by himself, obviously. He had help in it with, Jack Kirby and some of the other legends of the comic book industry. He created some of the greatest comic book characters of all time. I mean, Fantastic Four, the Hulk, Thor, Iron Man, Daredevil, Doctor Strange, the X-Men, Ant-Man, and of course, the Amazing Spider-Man. I mean, and the thing about the way he wrote them and the way he created these characters, you could almost sort of relate to them. Like they had flaws. Unlike the DC characters, which were like all high and mighty, the Marvel characters were a lot more down to earth, so to speak. I mean, yeah, okay, they've got superpowers. You can't relate to that, but you can relate to Spider-Man being like, I could at least, like, okay, he was a genius. I was the furthest thing from a genius. I wasn't scientifically inclined. Okay, so that part, no, but the social awkwardness, getting bullied, just feeling like an outcast, feeling like a loner. The Hulk with the anger and the rage. The X-Men just being different. I mean, of course, X-Men is a whole another realm of being different that I'm not going to touch because I'm not related to that. But I'm just saying that Stan Lee created these iconic characters, but they were like they were humanized. You could relate to their flaws. They weren't the perfect clean cut all American Superman. They were the dingy, grimy, gray area type things. So he created all these characters and all these worlds. Again, him and Jack Kirby and all these other incredible people. But I mean, he was the driving force behind it. And he took it from the little kiddies book to where we are today. A lot of that is attributed to Stan Lee because there was times, much like video games, where comics died out. And Stan Lee kind of just his electrifying personality. I mean, he just, like I said, he was just an icon. Unfortunately, I never got a chance to meet him. There was a lot of times that Comic Cons, these little conventions that they do all the time, were coming around, and it's just time wise, it just never worked out. I just would have loved to have met him and thank him for a lifetime of wonderful memories and almost for being like a friend, being there in my difficult times when I really didn't have a lot of friends, when I didn't really have anybody. I kind of just always felt like, hey, he and the characters and the worlds he created were there with me to kind of take my mind off the difficult times, to kind of be a companion when things were rough. And I wish I would have had an opportunity to tell him how much that meant to me when I was a kid and growing up. I would have loved to have met the man because I mean I've heard nothing but good things about him. He he of course in his much later years was just from the beginning ironclad part of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. I used to always love his little 10, 20, 30-second cameos in the Marvel movies, in the X-Men movies, even though they weren't part of Marvel, the Marvel Cinematic Universe at the time. Of course, he was in Mallrats, the Kevin Smith movie. He had a little bit larger role in that one. I mean, just you could tell the guy was just having fun and just had a love for people and just had a love for like just the fandom. I mean, you don't get a lot of that. You get some people that are so angry and bitter that they're typecast or they're stuck in this one role. He just embraced it. I mean, you could tell the guy was just a cool dude. And like I said, I did not have the easiest life growing up, and superheroes and comic books were an escape for me. They were a big part of my life as a kid. As I got older, teenager, you grow up, you make friends, you start going out, you get in your car. Once you learn how to drive, you start dating. Like they kind of lose their luster at that point. But later on in life, it kind of came back into my life, and I found this place called Half Price Books, which we have here in Houston, which I'm sure they're in a couple other states, and I hadn't bought a comic book in like 20 plus years, easy. And my wife and I went in there one time. This is like years and years back, and they got them in there for like 5 cents, 10 cents, 20 cents. So I was like, you go look and see what you can find, and I'll look here for a minute, and an hour later, here I am digging through the box and finding all these these classics from Marvel Comics, which I absolutely love. Again, DC Comics is pretty good too, in their own right. Some of the like Batman is probably my my favorite superhero all time. he's right up there with Spider-Man. It's hard to determine, but the world of DC and the world of Marvel comics is just, it's night and day for me. And even like the artwork. Like, I know he didn't draw the characters, but like the artwork from like the inception of Marvel in the '60s up to like the late '80s, there's just something about that artwork, like, and just the stories he told. I mean, he pushed the envelope. Back then there was only certain things they had the comic code authority, whatever the heck it's called. Certain things that were off limits. You just had to keep it in this box. And I mean, he tackled things like drug addiction. He tackled things like satire and just issues that you wouldn't expect to see in a comic, but he just would integrate it into these stories. I mean, I'm sure he did a lot of the writing. In his later years, probably stepped back from it. But the guy led a full life. He lived to be 95. God bless him. I like I said, he was, looking back on it now, he was a hero of mine. I didn't really, again, I did not have a lot of heroes growing up. Not a lot of people I looked up to and admired other than, family and some of my friends and whatnot. But I mean, just a genuine hero. When he died a couple of years ago, I was really sad. I mean, with me especially, the older I get, the more I realize, mistakes in my past. I realized a lot of things, 5, 6 years ago, and I talked about this in the previous video. I had kind of like an epiphany, sorry, about things in my life, and just the older I get, it's like my perspective gets enormous. It's not so condensed and focused on one thing. I can look back, without rose tinted glasses to see. I see the good and the bad. And like I said, a lot of the good had to do with superheroes, comic books, and Stan Lee was the one behind them. So, Stan, up in heaven, I salute you, man. I mean, again, thank you for a lifetime of memories. I'm sure I'm not the only one. I mean, I'm sure there's millions of people all over the world who cherish the time that, the time, the worlds, the stories that you helped create. I know you weren't the only one. I'm not saying that, but I mean, I just wish I would have had an opportunity to thank him when he was still around, or even just to have met him. So anyway, I know, a little silly topic, a little off topic, not my usual video, shorter than normal. But again, I wanted to talk about a hero. Times right now are a little rough in the world. Times change, values change. How would I say it? Old conventions change. So I often find myself asking why do I still do certain things? Why do I still work hard? Why do I try so hard when, it seems like people that don't get ahead and people like me don't really, reap the rewards? And it's because it's the right thing to do. And I think a lot of that I learned, of course, growing up from my grandparents and, to a lesser extent from my parents, but also from the stories that he created. So anyway, I'm going to shut this down really quick here. I mean, I could go on and on, but, I just kind of wanted to give you a little insight, like I said, into one of my heroes. And again, a hero to millions of people all around the world. So, Stan, we miss you, man. We could sure use you and your stories and your worlds and your heroes in these crazy times. So, guys, if you have liked this video, please make sure you subscribe to my channel. Like I said, I try to keep videos coming on a fairly regular basis. I had about a week and a half there where there was a gap where I just had a lot going on. This coming week, I got some stuff going on. After that, even with the holidays coming up, it should open up a little bit. Goodness, I apologize. Allergies been killing me. So I'll try to get some videos back up here soon. But I hope everybody's doing okay. Hang in there. And as Stan always used to say, Excelsior.